Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first breakout session, Navigating Career Challenges and Seizing Opportunities. Just a few housekeeping rules for this morning. Please silence your cell phones. And I do want to point out the exits here to the side, at the back of the room, and there's also one over here. And of course, one of the most important things, restrooms are right out here across the hall. And we do want to let everyone know that these sessions are being recorded so we can play them back later for other folks. And I think that's everything. Oh, if you have any questions, please put them in the Whova app. So it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our sponsor of this breakout session from the Northeast Pennsylvania Alliance, the Apex Accelerator Division. We have Kara Smith, who is the Government Procurement Specialist. So Kara, welcome.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. As she said, my name is Kara Smith. This is the track 4 panel discussion, Charting Your Course, Navigating Career Challenges and Seizing Opportunities. Just a little bit about what we do at the NEPA Alliance. We are an economic development agency. We're located in Pittston, Pennsylvania. We assist small businesses around our region. We service 7 counties, and we help them in government contracting. We help them with business finance. We help them with international exporting as well. And again, like she said, we're a sponsor of today, and we're so happy to be here, and thank you all for attending.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Beggin. We are talking about career challenges and seizing opportunities today. Like I said, my name is Beggin. I'm the CEO of Panelists Federal Credit Union. I have been in the banking industry for longer than I care to discuss, over 35 years. And I have charted my course by kind of seizing a lot of opportunities that were given to me, and some that I created myself. And so I never really, thought that I'd be in the position that I am today, but I'm delighted and excited to be in it. I have my undergraduate and graduate degree, master's degrees from the University of Scranton. I have 2 children and my husband. We live in Archibald, and I have 1 granddog. Who I love more than my children, for the record. I'm going to allow our panel to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Good morning. My name is Chelsea Coslett. I am the Manager of Marketing and Stakeholder Engagement for the Northeastern Pennsylvania Industrial Resource Center, also known as NEPERC. We are headquartered in Hanover Township, and we are a nonprofit that provides world-class training programs and business consultative services to small and mid-sized manufacturers throughout 11 counties in northeastern, northern, and north central Pennsylvania. One of the aspects of my job is planning, coordinating, and executing our largest event of the year, which is our Manufacturing Day Best Practices Summit and Expo, which happens every October. NEPERC is also an advocate for modernizing the manufacturing industry and manufacturing careers, so a lot of our outward-facing marketing reflects that. I am also a member of the Manufacturing Extension Partnerships National Marketing Steering Committee, and we oversee the partnership's marketing community of practitioners. Outside of work, I am a current member of Leadership Northeast Core Program 2024, and I'm working with my community impact project team, Head Start Heroes, to create a sensory room at Luzerne County Head Start's Beekman Street Center in Wilkes-Barre. I am also a graduate of Leadership Northeast Amplify Women's Leadership Program in 2022. And I am the immediate past president of the board of directors for the American Advertising Federation of NEPA. I also serve at my church, LCBC in Wilkes-Barre. I live in 44 with my fiance Matt and our dog Penny. And Matt and I are getting married in about 6 weeks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Wodder. I'm the CEO of Scranton Counseling Center. So we are centrally located in South Scranton. We provide a full continuum of behavioral health and mental health services to the community, serving mainly Lackawanna and Susquehanna County. Some exciting news about our center is that we recently opened a 24/7 crisis receiving and stabilization unit. So when individuals are experiencing a behavioral health crisis, rather than having to go to kind of overburdened emergency departments, they could come right into our center where they get immediate treatment, they get case planning, where they could hopefully return safely to their home with support. We're also going to be starting a clubhouse for individuals who are kind of well into their recovery journey with mental health and behavioral health, where they learn vocational skills to kind of reduce stigma and be reintegrated into the community. So we're really proud of the work that we do. Personally, I have a 5.5-year-old who'd be really mad if he knew that this conference was at Kalahari today and he wasn't here. I have 2 rescue dogs, and my husband and I live in Moscow, where I grew up. And I enjoy running and traveling, and I'm happy to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Mihal. I'm a CPA with MMQ and Associates. We're located in Scranton. You might think, oh, an accountant. We're really we're a great all-purpose accounting firm. We do audits, taxes, reviews, compilations. You probably have no idea what that means, but we do a lot of everything, and we're there to service our clients and provide service that what every client needs is a little bit different. So we're there to make sure that we provide what you're looking for. Accountants, we don't just sit behind an adding machine. We do a lot of things. We're out in the public. We like to meet people. Our work is people. So being here is really important to us and progressing. So thank you for having me and for allowing me to speak with you today. I'm a partner and been with the firm for 20 years. So I've kind of been an anomaly if you think about careers maybe, because I've been with the same place for 20 years. But I'd love to talk to you throughout the session about progression and growth and how that happened for me. I am married, and I have 2 sons. I have a stepson who's 23 and a son who is 8. So I have one in college, one in kindergarten at one point in time. So life is great and crazy, and we just enjoy spending time with family and friends. So great to see you all and meet you all. I'm happy that you're all here to be here, and we hope to have a great session.
That's quite the span, Stephanie. Good luck to you. So today we're going to talk about, one of the first things that we're going to talk about is the actual challenges that we face in our careers, and what are some of those common challenges, and how do we kind of overcome some of those challenges. So the first thing I'm going to put out to the panel is let's talk about some of the career challenges that you see we have a pretty diverse group here from an industry standpoint. So let's talk about some of the career challenges that we all see in our industries.
I'll start, and being a CPA, I think CPAs are quite subject to burnout, right? Like, we work a lot of hours during a certain period of time. Our jobs, largely, at least at our firm, we're non-remote, so we're in person. So I think there's different challenges today that we're facing than maybe we did when I first started. So, for my progression, it was like, when I came on, they said, you're an intern, you can be a supervisor, a senior, a manager, a partner one day. And I thought to me, well, I don't really know what that means, but along the way, I'll figure it out and decide if it's something for me when I get to that point. So at every time that I came to the next step, it was kind of like I had to make a decision. Is this what I want? Is it still on track with, what we just listened to? Like, is this your purpose? Is this your passion? So even though I've stayed with the same firm for 20 years, it wasn't just, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. It was constant evaluation of, is what I'm doing what I want to be doing, and is it serving a purpose? And for me, it was always yes. So, but I'm different. Not everyone was the same. And I think now we're finding differences in that, maybe people aren't staying in the same position for 20 years. Maybe it's we start here and then we're moving somewhere else, or, this isn't for me. How do we handle those changes? And I think staff retention is hard. So now we're trying to make sure that the staff that we get in is liking what we do. We have so many different aspects of what we do. So trying to make sure that they're engaged in the clients that they're serving and what they're working on. I think that's really important part of it, but also the fact that we're in person. So I think it's really great for us as a group because we all need to be in person to work better as a cohesive team. But there's a lot of places and people now that don't want to be in person, right? Like how many applicants do you get that say, oh, I want a remote position? Or how many of you want a remote position, right? So that's something totally different that we're going through now that we didn't go through maybe even 5 years ago. This was so different. So now I think when we look at career challenges, there's a difference more or less just, do you like what you're doing? Is this part of your purpose? It's, do you like what you're doing? Do you want to be remote? Do you want to be in person? So now there's additional questions that you're asking people, yourself, and trying to manage how to build the best business and staff and group that you can that can fit all of those different areas. So I think
of your organization.
Your organization, right.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think there's a lot of new challenges, which we're constantly working with. And also that begs the question, how do we change, right? Like as partners, as managers, as the leadership of your organizations, how do you change and shift to fit the need because you need staff or because you need people? Mm-hmm. How do you fit to allow them, the flexibilities that people need?
So is anyone here in healthcare or human services? Okay, so you probably are familiar with the challenges of, in our industry, workforce stabilization, recruitment, retention. Now more than ever, I think post-COVID, right? It's a challenging field to be in where you're asking people to come in person every day and be faced with things like burnout, mm-hmm. Compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma. And so I think a big part of our area is constantly advocating for people to recognize the importance of behavioral health and increase funding for those services, to encourage people to go into the field kind of at the ground level. And so in terms of helping people with their career trajectory, we have a lot of really talented individuals who may have been with our organization for a decade or more in bachelor's level positions, but maybe it's cost prohibitive to further their career. So we've been really working hard to try to partner with higher education institutions in the community. Marywood, for example, is saying, hey, providers, if you will pay X amount towards tuition, we'll pay X amount, and we'll make it really affordable for someone to go back and become a licensed clinical social worker. We try to create opportunities for upward mobility within Scranton Counseling Center. I think that in our industry in particular, it's helping people feel connected to the mission of our agency, helping them know that the work that they're doing with some of the most vulnerable members of our community every day truly has an impact and makes a difference. We try to let them know that their work is really valued, to try to keep them with us. And so I think, it's the career challenges is helping people to not only, find their niche, but help them grow, whether it's with us or whether they move on into private practice or other things, so.
And I think one of the things that I've really noticed with being at NEPERC and working with manufacturers is the lack of women in manufacturing. And that is one thing that at NEPERC, we really try to spread awareness of and to women, like, hey, you belong here, you belong in this industry, there is room for you. So that is something that I've noticed. Also, I mean, where I work, it's a pretty male-dominated office, but that has changed in the past 2 years. I'm glad to say there's a lot more women power at NEPERC now. And so I think that's really important, is just spreading word to women and young girls that, hey, like, careers that involve engineering and STEM and math, and those are for you, and you belong there, and you come with your own special package too, and together, working in a male-dominated industry, you can really make an impact.
Right. I agree with that. I don't know how many people are here in the financial services industry, also a male-dominated industry in a lot of ways, and it's even stranger because it's male-dominated on the upper level, not so much on the lower level, right? And by lower level, I don't mean that as an insult at all, just starting positions, right? In those starter positions, it's male-dominated on the top. I'm the CEO for the last 9 months. I never thought that I would be the CEO of a financial institution. I learned, I was in the banking world. I moved over to the credit union world about 7 years ago and saw right away that in the credit union world, there were a lot more opportunities for women than there were in the banking industry. So I found that was very interesting, and I thought, wow, I might actually have an opportunity here. And we're talking about opportunities and creating and seizing opportunities, and we will be talking about that again in a minute. But when it comes to the workforce, everything that everyone has talked about, no matter what our industry, I think we're all kind of feeling the same types of pressures. We talk about what the incoming workforce is looking for. We talk about putting value to the workforce that we have. One of the things that I tried to do since I've been in the position, and some of the people from the credit union are in the room, so I hope they agree. But I'm trying to give value to the staff that I have. Like, why wouldn't we do that? If they're good at their jobs, tell them. Treat them like they are good at their jobs. Why not? What does it matter? Why is that a secret? It's not. If you're good at your job, you should know that. So, adding value to your staff, like telling your staff, and whether it be monetary, whether it be just words, some folks have told me they just want to know they're appreciated. They just want to hear it, right? And it's one thing to bring in we do need to bring in new workforce and all those kinds of things, but we need to appreciate the staff we have too. Male, female, it doesn't matter. Appreciate, they're working hard, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They should feel appreciated. And some days, ladies, are not easy. Some days are challenging. And those are the days even more so that we should say, hey, by the way, great job today, because I know that wasn't easy. These things that, and Chelsea talking about it being in a male-dominated world, it is time for us to stand up for each other and celebrate each other and say things like, hey, great job, right? So those are the kinds of things that, these are challenges that we find on the day-to-day, not just the workforce challenges. These are just like in our organizations. These are the kinds of challenges that we find on the day-to-day. So, in light of those challenges, I want to talk next about what kind of opportunities that we have already created or we can create to overcome some of the workplace challenges that we have today. And I think, Sarah, you already started to talk about what the Scranton Counseling Center does to kind of combat some of these challenges that we have. So I don't know who else, Sarah, you want to talk some more, or anybody else want to talk about what kind of opportunities we can create or these folks can create in their organizations?
Yeah, I could jump in a little more, because I think something we've focused on, again, in an industry where you're doing just emotionally fatiguing work, and maybe it's not the highest salary, we try to focus on those work-life balance type of fringe benefits. So one of the best things we did was we brought on a director of development who's in the back there today, Doug. And so he works really hard to write amazing grant proposals to get us funding to have those fringe benefits for our employees. So something we're working on right now is trying to get a grant to be able to provide quarterly, essentially therapy for the therapist, to be able to provide group sessions around those difficult topics that I had mentioned before, like compassion fatigue or burnout or vicarious trauma, individual sessions, quarterly yoga, guest speakers on areas that our workforce is interested in. Again, to show what you were discussing, kind of we appreciate you, we see you, and we want to give you what you need to feel whole in the workplace, to feel supported, and to feel like you could be as competent at your job and taken care of as possible. So that's an area where I think we try to just lift up our staff and let them know that we care.
I think something that, we progressively have done over time as things have changed is become more and more transparent. I think transparency is really important to an organization and the staffing and growth, because if people know where you're going and the firm is going and where the plan is and what, the directions are, then they have a buy-in, right? They want to be a part of that, and I think that's really important for everyone to know direction, and not only just direction, but in a time where, let's face it, I have my girls in the room, and I don't ever want to lose them. They're great hard workers, and makes me sad to think that at some point, like a firm could come in and sweep them away, because they're such great staff. And I feel that way because of the way they work, the things they do, and I wouldn't be me without them. Aww. I promised I wouldn't cry, but I did. And you allow me to be me and do what I do because of the hard work you put in. And telling them those things and letting them know how important they are, not just to me, but to the firm and our growth and our development, that's super important. And I know that once they get their CPA licenses, they become super marketable, right? Like they can, be swept up by private industries or somewhere else. So I need to let them know, like, if you stay here, I'm going to take care of you, and this is what's going to happen. It may not be for them. Like, maybe they're just like, I'm done with public accounting. I'm done working the long hours, and I get that, but I can still take care of you. So that's just, what I do. And not just for the girls, but the boys too. But, but I'm just grateful for our staff, and I think there's just a way to treat people.
Yeah.
And I think too, building on what I had said about being a female in a male-dominated industry, I feel like society anymore, says that the differences between male and female are bad. But the differences between male and female are actually good. And we each bring our own unique skill set to the office every single day. And if we, can be supportive of those differences, I think that really, can make all the difference too. So.
And just to build a little bit on what Stephanie said, if you are in this room and you're in middle management or you have some type of influence on upper management, let them know exactly what Stephanie just said. The people that are working are making everybody doing their jobs are making everything and everybody better for it. Male or female, it doesn't matter. Let that upper management know, hey, by the way, these folks need to know that they're appreciated. They need to understand that even if they go on and they get their continuing education, that they still have a place with us. We want them here. Especially as an organization, if you want to talk to upper management about, dollars and cents, well, hey, we're making an investment in these folks. We want to keep them here. There's nothing wrong with voicing that. So if you have that avenue to voice that, voice it in your own organizations, because that just makes the organization better. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is actually seizing opportunities. So I'm going to start with this one because I'm feeling brave now. So I went over to Stephanie.
I already cried.
You'll start, right, Stephanie? You'll start this. I don't want to start this. So seizing opportunities. So for me, in 35 years, I have been given opportunities. I've taken, and unfortunately for you guys, you're going to hear me speak again in a little while. I'm sorry, it's going to sound very similar to this, but I'm speaking at the lunch too, so I'm sorry. Anyway, But for me, it's been seizing the opportunities given to me, not complaining, not whining, not saying, why did they keep giving this to me? Well, I know why they were given to me, because they wanted to get it done, right? I know the end game, but at the same time, I was allowed to shine. I was allowed to do it my way. I was allowed to say, hey, I'm not really great at this, but I'll try. If I fail, what happens? I've been fortunate enough for people to say, if you fail, try again. We'll do it a different way. We'll figure it out. But it took those opportunities. So if you are in management here, create those opportunities for people. Allow them to grab them. If you're not in management here and you're an employee of an organization, grab every opportunity you can. Why not? They're scary. It feels scary. I know folks that are here at the credit union. We've had a lot of change in the last 9 months. And the 4 people that I know that are in this room had a lot of change handed to them in the last 9 months, and every single one of them have grabbed it. And they're doing great. It's not perfect. None of us are perfect. Sometimes we fall down, sometimes we get back, and we have to just get back right back up, but grab the opportunity. Grab that opportunity when it comes to you. Because someday you could be the CEO, right? Anybody else?
I definitely want to add to that because, life is a funny thing, and sometimes when we think we're flying high, we get knocked down really fast. And in my 15-year career, I did experience a huge setback. In January of 2020, I lost my job. And you never think that that's going to happen to you. Like, I'm never going to have that. That's never going to be part of my story. And it is part of my story. And I really didn't know how to grasp that at first and come to terms with that. But now looking back 4 years later, I'm really glad that that's part of my story, because I 100% would not be who I am today if it wasn't for my job loss, and really knowing what it's like to be in the deepest, darkest valley that you could find yourself. And so, you really have to figure out, like, hey, what am I going to do with this? And, my choice was to wallow in self-pity for a couple months, admittedly. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I am going to apply for jobs, despite it being a pandemic. And I'm going to work and hone my skills in my own time. And that's exactly what I did. And in that time was when I found my job at NEPERC. And I thank God every day for that job and for the leader whom I work for, because he has had such belief in me, and because of him and because of the amazing people that I work with, I have really noticed myself grow, not only professionally, but also personally, the most I have ever felt in the past 4 years. And I am not who I was 5 years ago, and I'm really proud of that. And so you never know, when you're faced with a big setback like that, the best advice that I could give to you is just to think about how you could use it for the good. How can I use this for good? How can I take this awful part of my story and transform it into something good?
And the moral of Chelsea's story right there, opportunities don't always look like what you think they're going to look like, right? She took a negative opportunity and made it a positive. So, they don't always look like wrapped in a bow in a box. It looks beautiful. Let's grab that opportunity. It's going to be a career advancement. Woohoo! It's not always like that. But look what has happened. So, go on.
I think what this has made me reflect upon, so by training, I'm a licensed professional counselor and also a psychologist. So something that I learned, I think personally and professionally in my own career, is I see a lot of people who underestimate themselves and or fear rejection. When it comes down to it, rejection, it just kind of creates other opportunities. So I always encourage people, whether they're looking to mobilize where they are or looking for a new career opportunity, don't be afraid to be told no. My old organization, I started my career in forensic psychology with the legally mandated population. We went through an acquisition, and so my boss was going to be elevating into that parent company. And so they were going to be looking, outside of our organization, for someone to take over that executive role. And so I think at the time I was about 8 months pregnant, and I asked her if she would go to lunch with me, and I said, well, what about me? Would you consider me for that role? And it may have been a bit of a brazen thing to do, but when I came back from maternity leave, I was offered the role. And so I think if I had feared rejection, I never would have asked, and somebody outside of our organization would have been in the position. And if I hadn't taken that position, I don't think I'd have my current position as CEO at Scranton Counseling Center. So you're always going to be your own best advocate, and don't be afraid if someone's going to say no, because if they say no, then you could just search for the next thing. So.
I think for me, along the career path, there was titles. There was at first you're an intern, and then you're a staff, and then you're, a senior, a supervisor. For me, it was never really about the title. It was what I was capable of, right? So if I was able to perform at the next level and do the job, and people knew me and they came to me and I became that person, the titles would come to me. So for me, it was never about getting the title first. It was do the work and be your best advocate, because if I was doing the work and it was speaking for itself, and clients were, coming to me and keeping going, and new clients were coming because they said, oh, I love working with Stephanie, then I said, I'm doing the work and it's going to come. So for me, it was not always about waiting for that opportunity, but making it happen for me, number one. And I think that also comes from taking every opportunity that you can in terms of speaking engagements, like today. Somebody asked you to speak, just say yes. It's a great opportunity for me to work on public speaking, because nobody's perfect at it. So I think getting up in front of people, talking to people in whatever capacity you can is really important. Being on boards, serving with multiple different kinds of people, getting to know the public is just so important in no matter what role you're in, because you never know where you're going to meet somebody, who they're going to be connected to, how it's going to help you in other advancement opportunities, and just getting out and meeting people is so important. Taking every opportunity that you can, and whether it's mentoring other people, I think the best way there is for you to learn is to be a mentor. If you have to teach and train someone how to do something, you have to know that job inside and out, right? You have to be able to train them, to teach them. So instituting mentorship programs. We recently have been trying to institute coaching programs within our firm, because I think it also helps people realize, not just professionally and at work, what do you need to do? What about outside of work? What do you need as a staff person that is working for me that I can help you attain outside of work? How can I make you a better whole person? Because if you are, happy inside and out, then I know you can come to work and focus on what you're doing. So I think there are lots of ways to seize opportunities, but I think it's kind of piggybacking on what Dr. Lauren also talked about this morning. How can you, maybe do things on the outside so that when you're at, work, you're able to focus on your purpose at that point, and make those opportunities happen for yourself. Don't wait for them to happen for you.
I think that's a great point, and it's actually a great launch to our next part, which is, you talk about opportunities, and sometimes they're given to you, sometimes you have to create them yourself, sometimes you have to, look for those opportunities. They're not always as obvious or apparent in every organization. Stephanie and Dr. Lauren this morning brought up very good points about still coming to work every day as your best self, and start to invest in yourself, so when you come to work every day, you are your best self. You're your best self for your family, your best self for your employees, your comrades at work, whatever it is, you're always bringing your best self. So some of the things that we're going to talk about next would be just skill development and professional growth. So what kind of extra things can you do to create those opportunities for yourself, excuse me, or to even get noticed in your own organization, right? What kind of things can you do? What kind of skills, what kind of development can you perform or for yourself and for your organization? I can tell you that if you are at this conference today, you're already on the right path because you care enough about yourself and your career to be at the Empower Leadership Conference. So just think about that for 1 minute. But let's talk about skill development and professional growth.
I'll start, and I'm just going to say there's one thing I think that somebody can't teach you, and that's passion. So I think if you're passionate about what you do, it sets you apart from everyone else, right? It kind of puts you on a different level than everybody else in your playing field because you want it, right? You have a passion for what you do. So I think there's another question to ask, and if you're not passionate about what you're doing, why are you there? Right? I think there has to be constant evaluations about where you are, why you're there. Does it fit with you? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Because that's the only way to project your best self on your career and what you're doing, right? So passion. Passion is always important, whatever career path you take, right? And then skill development, I think, we talk about going to conferences, being up to date and, what it is you're physically doing in your career, but what about the soft skills, the people skills that we don't talk about? Those are super important skills that I think everyone should learn because whether it's either on a Zoom call now, which makes it 10 times harder, right, to become personable with someone, you have to find a way to connect. You have to find a way to connect with people on a personal level. So if you're only seeing them on Zoom, you have to find a way to maybe send them a chat in a box and be like, hey, loved your comment. Like, you have to find ways that even through Zoom, you can reach out to someone, make a connection, and say, oh, that's someone that, I want to get together with after this, or that person now is going to remember you because you sent them a chat message, rather than just saying, oh, that was a great meeting, whatever. It was so much easier when things were all totally in person, right? But now that they're electronic methods, you have to find new ways to make those connections. So making connections, working on your personal skills, whether it's talking in front of people or being on a board or, getting involved with mentorship programs, any way that you can hone in those personal skills. You wouldn't believe it, but do you have to teach people how to write a professional email? Like, how to use correct punctuation, like how to do, you don't think about those things, but, coming out of school now, everyone's so used to texting. Yeah, IDK, da-da-da. And then you're like, oh my gosh, they're writing that in an email. Like, no, there has to be some other professional etiquette you have to teach maybe in other areas. Now we have Zoom chat, right, at our office so that we can, and if we're upstairs, downstairs in different offices, we can chat with people. And sometimes the chats I get, I'm like, what are they even asking me? So I think there's still ways that you can be more electronic, but there's ways to do it in a professional manner. So always working on those soft skills, people skills are really important, but still ever changing because now we're not in person as much. So how do you change those skills when now you're more electronic? You're on Zoom, you're on chat. How do you still kind of keep that appearance and really connect with people even though it might be through chat?
Yeah, and I think you bring up such great points. And if you don't have a teenage or a 20-something-year-old in your life, you don't even know what those initials mean sometimes, and that would be me. There's many times I've had to text my kids and say, what does IDK mean? Before I send it to somebody else. Okay, I think how's the time going over there?
We have 6 minutes.
Okay, do we want to open it up for questions? We're going to open it up for questions for myself and for the panel.
And we do have a couple that are in the app, so we will start with those before we go to the room. The first one is, what advice would you give to young women regarding finding the courage to raise their hand and ask the hard questions?
Raise your hand and ask the hard question. No, yeah, I mean, because like Dr. Lauren just talked about earlier, our internal voice will always tell you, don't do it. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to make a fool out of yourself. They're going to laugh at you. You're going to sound ridiculous. They're going to be mad. Why are you asking? That's horrible. Why are you stepping out of your comfort zone? Raise your hand and ask the question. If anybody makes you feel that way, they're probably not supposed to be in your circle, right? They're certainly not out for your career development. That's for sure.
And I just want to add to that. I mean, it can be really scary as a young professional because you're just trying to get your footing and everything. And I would just encourage you to, be brave and use everything as practice. Like Dr. Lauren said, the question you don't, like the only answer you could get to a question that you don't ask is no. So just be brave and just think of it as like a professional growth opportunity, just putting yourself out there. Because if you don't put yourself out there and you don't practice putting yourself out there, you're never going to get better at it.
Okay.
Okay, next question. How do you initiate or create your own opportunities in an organization that doesn't have upward growth opportunities?
What about outward? Like, do you deal? I don't know who asked the question, but do you have opportunities to grow outward and like make your
In your community?
yeah.
In
or with people outside of your current work environment, like to get noticed from outside in? Is that?
Like honing on skills to go outside of
Or just making yourself more known or involved in the community.
Yeah, networking.
Networking, things like that, so that you can, you're getting feedback and people from the community are then, somehow finding it ways that it's getting back to your organization. Oh, we saw, what's your name? Shallon. We saw Shallon and, she was asking great questions and, she's doing great things and she's volunteering for this and we're seeing her here. So you're raising your name just by being a part and doing things maybe that aren't within your scope.
Yeah, in terms of being brave, right? If there's an industry you're interested in, if someone reaches out to me and introduces themselves and says, like, could we get together? Could I come for a tour of your organization or would you like to get coffee? Every time I'll say yes, I'll make time for that. And so not being afraid to put yourself out there, being brave, I think could really open up doors.
just being here, you're in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have time if we can take one question from the floor if anyone else has a question. If not, you get out of here 3 minutes early. All right, hang on.
Working in different developments and everything, I feel that sometimes when we ask for money, we get the no. And every time I try to see if organizations want money, we get the answer no. So once I get the answer yes, maybe the organization will do better.
Well, I mean, you guys are in nonprofits, and I'm sure, serving on boards of nonprofits. I think fundraising is a difficult topic. I think especially in our area, right? Everybody knows everybody, and, there's kind of pockets, how many times can you go back to the same person and ask for money, right? So I think, that becomes a very difficult task, and you have to have super skills to be in that role, number one, right? To ask for the money, that takes a lot of different tools that you've already developed. And I think you have to have really thick skin, right? You have to, not only just asking for money, but I think you also have to find ways to get them to come in the door, right? So I'm on the board of Outreach, Center for Community Resources. We were previously EOTC, and everyone's like, oh, you're OECD, you're a government agency. We were like, no. So we had to go through a whole rebranding. Long story short, nobody still knew what we did. So no one wanted to give you money if they don't know who you are and what you did, right? So you had to get them to come in the door and see the programs you provide and show them the differences that you make. And a lot of people, even though they might not be accountants, maybe they're numbers people. So sometimes you have to translate what you do into numbers, how many people you serve. Like when they see the differences, are there different approaches you could be doing or taking to asking them for the funds? So that would be my suggestion. Are there different ways to ask? And maybe it's not asking for money, but asking them for a visit or asking them a different way to come and see you so that you can show them what you do. Not necessarily asking for money.
When you go to that table when in the back of mind, you have the ask is the money, bring everything else with you. Bring what you've done, what you've earned, what you know, how you've helped, how you do your job. And, is that different? Maybe, is there a gender difference in this part of it? There probably might be. But don't be shy, don't be embarrassed, don't think it's bragging to say, this is what I do. This is what I bring. This is my value to you. The money then becomes a little bit less, not that I've been here 30 years, I deserve, I need, I want. Those are great things, but what are you bringing? What did you bring? Bring to that person, this is what I represent in your organization, in this our organization. This is what I'm worth, right? And that's where things get, yep, we're gonna wrap it up. That's where things get a little more interesting for that upper management, so. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to our sponsor, NEPA Alliance Apex Accelerator. Have a great rest of your day.